Welcome to IT Hour on KMET 1490.
Hello and welcome to IT Hour, a popular show where we focus on best practices for a better IT experience. It's Wednesday and we're back on KMET 1490. We're here with your host, Brad McDermith, that's me, and our co-host, Matt Creed. Thanks for coming back, Matt.
Yeah, I'm here again.
You're our resident, and it's Hump Day, and you know what? I shouldn't say that. You know, one day I said that to one of our guys who was a millennial, and he looked at me weird, and I realized that language changes over time, and I thought maybe I should not say it. Well, you're a millennial. Do you know what Hump Day is?
Yeah.
Of course, right?
I mean, we say Hump Day every time it's Wednesday. So
yeah, me too. So okay, so I guess that's cool with half of our staff here.
Yeah. we'll take what we got.
Okay, well, as you know, Matt is one of our senior technology consultants and account managers, and he's going to help us process these issues today. And so our topics include network complexity, IT needs categories, and some other popular IT news items. A big shout out to Mr. Mike Peacock, our producer and sound engineer. Thanks, Mike, for doing a great job. And So let's get started, Matt. We got a lot going on in the IT world as usual. Nothing slowing down. But one of the things I want to mention before we get going, because I realize that cybersecurity, it continues to be a theme in our last several shows. It's prevalent in the news cycle. But why do we keep talking about cybersecurity? And I just want to remind everybody that this is a horse that's not dead yet, and that's why we keep beating it. You agree with that?
Well, I think it's a horse that's going to be immortal at this point. We're going to be talking. There's never going to be a time to not talk about cybersecurity. I mean, that's just the future is here, and it will continue forward.
I think you just said that very well. So there it is. We no longer have to explain or apologize why a central theme to this show is cybersecurity, and more specifically lately, ransomware. So we're going to continue on talking about it and not apologizing for it. So, one of the things I want to start off and give a little bit of background. One of the things that we hear a lot, and I think it's some confusion, maybe with some of our listeners, but definitely with business owners and, even people responsible for IT. Why is cybersecurity and the need to protect everything, your IT infrastructure, so complicated? And, I want to just take a step back and just review that, the whole landscape here. And I kind of liken it to protecting your house versus protecting the town. And, say 20, 30 years ago, we were dialing up individual PCs. We would connect to the internet as we needed. We would get the information that we would need, and then we would disconnect. And then so that was a little bit different. Now, all of our computers are interconnected, and they are online all of the time. And we're utilizing online services in real time all of the time. We have wireless. We have mobile devices. We have mobile device management. We've got just internet all the time. We've got IoT. We're demanding a full service spectrum of technology services, whereas just 20 or 30 years ago, we would just sort of dial up, get what we needed, and then back off. And it was pretty much a static relationship, and it was a local relationship, versus now we're interconnected with the world all of the time. And so along that journey, we demanded a lot more functionality, a lot more features, and along with that came risk. And along with that came the need to protect from that risk. And so that's kind of been the evolution of the added layers and the added needs and the things that we're talking about today. So 20, 30 years ago, you didn't really have the landscape and the opportunity for the security threats like we do now, because we've invited a lot of people in. Before the show, we were talking about any time that you up the stakes and get in a vehicle, or you up the stakes and you ask for more, you up the risk as well. And we talked about, we were listening to Robin Robbins the other night, and Robin said, how did you all get to my seminar? Did you ride a bicycle or did you take an airplane? Because if you take an airplane, it's a much more sophisticated mode of transportation. You have to take your car to the airport. You have to have all of well, at this point, you've got to have your COVID test. You've got to have your the proper license with the name on it. You've got to have your ticket. You've got to go through all of that. But, an airplane's a sophisticated mode of transportation. It goes really fast. It gets you there. Or if you hop on your bike, you can just literally go out to your garage, hop on it, and get going right away without any prerequisites. However, it's slow, and you might not make it. So if you want the most effective means of transportation, you're going to have to take additional risk. The airplane could fall out of the sky. It could get bombed by terrorists, or the pilot might decide that it's his last day and he wants to commit suicide and take everybody down. So we've had to add in these layers of protection. We've had to make sure that we screen to make sure that no one takes a bomb on the plane. We've had to do psychological testing to make sure that the pilot is stable and that he doesn't decide to off himself and take the whole plane down. And we've had to make sure that we've got safety and redundancy with engines and things like that to make sure that the airplane doesn't fall out of the sky. Now that we've asked more from transportation, we've also introduced more risks. We've had to put more layers of protection against those risks. It's the same thing with the evolution of technology. In the last 30 years, we've asked to have fast connectivity everywhere. We've asked to have wireless connectivity. We've asked to have mobile devices mimicking all of this technology and connectivity. And we've asked to have everything on all of the time. So now that we've asked for all of these things, we've introduced all of these new inherent risks. All of those layers of functionality now are threat vectors that can be attacked. And so we've got to have layers of protection in there. So it's easy to see when we zoom out and look at this. Why? Because we've asked it to do a lot more. We've asked our vehicle to get a lot more complicated. We now see a lot more attack vectors that are available to be hit. And we've had to add these other additional layers in to protect from those. So just want to go back and kind of help everyone understand, over the evolution of the last few decades, because we've asked so much more from technology, we've also complicated the cybersecurity equation. So what are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, we've definitely asked more of technology, and there have been a lot of consequences that have come around with that. I remember when on my cell phone, the best thing I could do on it was play Snake. And, then it was hitting that point where we were like, oh, it'd be great to be able to browse websites on your phone, and then, get full web pages, and just things have advanced from there. And it's funny, I even saw an ad the other day that had me scratching my head for a second. It was a HP printer ad where they were talking about how they had the most secure printer, like home printers in the world. And it's just like, how secure does your printer really need to be? But we've hit that point where with wireless technology and the push to print stuff and all that, where there's securities even needed on your printer.
Now it's a threat.
Yeah, it's become something that was just what you used to. Yeah, it's an extra threat in your home. It's crazy to think about how far that stuff's progressed. And like we said earlier, it's not going to stop. It's only going to get worse.
Do you have an IP-based thermostat in your house?
I do, yeah.
10 years ago, you never had to worry about your thermostat being hacked.
Yeah.
Or your coffee pot being hacked.
Exactly, yeah. All that, like you said, the IoT stuff, all that stuff is a vulnerability at this point.
Well, I'll tell you, the day my Keurig goes rogue and makes me decaf instead, I'm going to be pissed.
Let's hope it doesn't get to that point.
Let's hope. So, we get a lot of feedback from our audience on the show, and that's great. And so, some of the things that we have heard is, I'm looking for someone to take care of my needs, or I'm looking for a team to take care of my needs. And, but I don't even really know what my IT needs are. How do I categorize my IT needs? How do I quantify my IT needs? So, I want to talk about that a little bit today. What drives my IT needs? And so, we kind of categorize these in three basic categories. And I want to list the three categories, and then I want to talk about the three categories. The three categories are operational, feature, and functionality needs, security needs, and compliance needs. So let's go back to the top one: operational, feature, and functionality needs. So when I think of IT in that first category, I'm thinking of what does IT need to do in terms of getting my job done, making me competitive in the marketplace, driving me to be absolutely number one in my market space. And so that is keeping all of my equipment refreshed, making sure that I have a line of business software that meets all of my needs, making sure that, if I have inventory, that the software is keeping up with making sure that I'm able to track all my inventory. If I have a lot of pieces of inventory, maybe that's barcoding. Maybe if I have a large warehouse, maybe that's wireless coverage, wireless infrastructure. And maybe if it's inventory and barcoding, maybe it's having wireless devices to be able to cover that. So in terms of IT, it's meeting whatever needs keep you competitive and make sure that the technology is working for the business, and that the business is not working around technology, that your VCIO or your account manager is working with the business, understanding business processes and making sure that those dovetail well, and that as the business grows, that the two are working together, and that future functionality is on a roadmap, and that the two are driving in the same direction. And I think that is clearly different than security needs being driving IT and compliance needs driving IT.
Yeah.
Clearly different. So in the security needs bucket, what functionality and systems are in place, and that really comes separate. So if you have a large wireless campus, you have wireless all over your campus, the security needs are driven by that. Is the wireless secure? If you've got external email available, or you've got external line of business, or your ERPs available externally, it's having multi-factor authentication there. If you've got, Microsoft 365, it's having that system hardened. So it's making sure that all of the security standards are applied to whatever operational systems are already implemented. And it is, it's making sure that all of the standards are rolled out based on, NIST, CISA, and all of the other things that we base our standards on. Then compliance is sort of a third animal. And depending on what industry you're in, is going to drive that. And these are things that you're doing sort of just because. And so if you're taking credit cards, obviously you've got to have PCI compliance. If you're collecting customer data, you're going to have compliance related around that. If you were to have a breach, you've got certain compliance in terms of reporting. If you've got cybersecurity insurance policy, you're going to have, first of all, you're going to have certain things that you've got to do just to qualify for it. You're going to have certain standards that you're going to have to meet in order to be able to renew it. If you have loan covenants, you may have to meet certain requirements. If you've got large vendors, they may have policies that you're going to have to meet. If you're in healthcare, you may have high-tech or HIPAA policies that you have to meet. If you're in finance, you may have SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley. So these are all types of things that are driven by compliance or bureaucracy things. They're not necessarily important to you directly for your own security or functionality needs, but you've got a third party telling you, if you want to work with us, you're going to be in this industry, you're going to do these things, you have to do it. And that means that whoever's responsible for IT has to make sure that these compliance things are done. If you are owned by a larger corporate entity, private equity, venture capital, they may also have compliance needs as well. So your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, well, I mean, you pretty much explained it for what it's worth. But yeah, it's especially like you said, depends on your industry. You're going to get hit with different things, especially with like HIPAA and medical and all that kind of stuff. But it's having someone who can, if you don't know these things, can find these things for you and make sure that they're working. Technology is working the best for you, which we've preached tons of times on the show. So yeah, finding an MSP, an IT staff, a CTO, all those things are essential to make sure these three categories are all met.
Good. Yeah, very good addition there. And you know what? We're just coming up on the end of this segment, but we're going to go back and touch up on a few of those items. So if you would like to contact us, you may call us at 888-804-1MSP. You can email us at ithour@computeroptions.net or follow us on Discord. Here's wishing you best practices for a better IT experience.
Hi, are you ready to join a well-established managed IT service company? California Computer Options in Redland, California is currently seeking full-time remote work for Level 1 technical consultants and small to medium-sized business network operations center engineer, Windows Systems Administrator. Please contact us at California Computer Options 909-793-6338, 909-793-6338.
Attention residents of the Inland Empire. If you or someone you know is shopping for a mortgage, turn to one of the fastest growing mortgage lenders in the Inland Empire, Arrowhead Capital Mortgage. We offer a variety of loan products and options to help you and your family get into the home of your dreams, and we make sure the process is easy. Don't miss out on these historically low interest rates. Call now, 909-335-0430, or go online to www.ac.mortgage. That's 909-335-0430 or www.ac.mortgage. NMLS ID 267884, Equal Housing Lender. Call for additional cost information. Other restrictions may apply.
So you're a business owner. You might be a doctor's office or a bakery, or maybe you're a financial advisor. And no matter what your core business is, there's no denying that technology plays an important role in your daily operations. Unfortunately, as we've grown more dependent on modern technologies and systems, IT failures are starting to directly impact our ability to do business, in some cases with catastrophic consequences. Think about it. What happens when a server crashes at your office or your entire network fails? Your first step likely includes a phone call to a tech support line, where you'll troubleshoot a few things to try to determine the cause of the problem. If that doesn't help, you'll need to get a technician to come on site and try to fix things. And what happens while you're waiting? Your business suffers. The doctor's office can't access patient records, the bakery can't process inventory, and the financial advisor can't input customer data. So while you might think of technology as being secondary to your core business, the reality is that without it, many companies would find themselves at a complete standstill. And as we all know, time is money. That's where our fully managed approach to IT can help. With proactive remote monitoring and management, we're able to keep tabs on your IT infrastructure 24/7, 365 days a year. And when a problem does arise, our technical experts can quickly resolve it, in many cases before you're even aware that there was a problem at all. For an affordable fee, we'll provide the monitoring, technical support, and full problem resolution you need to stay productive. If you want peace of mind, call California Computer Options at 800-804-1-MSP.
And welcome back to IT Hour here with Brad and Matt on KMET 1490. And so, Matt, we've been discussing cybersecurity and why it's so complicated, and also IT needs. So going back just to recap here on cybersecurity complexity, I want to just briefly recap that. But I want to ask you a question first. How sick are you of my analogies and metaphors and euphemisms and comparisons.
I'm used to it at this point, so I mean, it doesn't bother me any.
So I don't only use them here in the show. I think I use them in every meeting, and I pretty well wear those out. But just getting back to why cybersecurity is so complex, why there's so many layers, and why it's so necessary. We talked about there being an inherent risk to any time that you're using technology. And I want to go back and talk about investments and draw a little comparison here. And you and I were talking about this before the show.
Yeah.
When you've got cash, you've got some options. And so, when you've got excess cash, you generally want to make an investment. And just leaving it cash, it feels secure because, if it's cash in the bank or cash in your safe, it's generally less susceptible to someone stealing it. You make an investment, it's less susceptible to, if you invested in a business, it's less susceptible to the business going out of business. If you invested in stock, it's less susceptible to the stock going down. It's less susceptible to something bad happening to that investment. However, you lose the opportunity of it growing and appreciating. And then when cash sits by itself, it degrades by inflation. So most people want to put their cash in a vehicle that will take them somewhere, a vehicle that will give them growth. But anytime you get in a vehicle, anytime you put something in a vehicle, there's risk. Just like when you get in a car, there's risk to that. And we've used that. We've burned through that analogy a bunch.
Yeah.
So when you put your cash in a vehicle, clearly you are assuming some type of risk. And you want to mitigate that risk. Obviously, you want to choose your stock wisely. You want to choose a stock that where a company is operating in a stable market and they've got a good business plan and all of those types of things. So I just want to draw the parallels there with not utilizing technology cuts you out of a lot of functionality these days. Your thermostat, just as a simple example, it keeps you from having to get up off the couch, right? Because now you can just pick up your phone and change the thermostat. You don't have to get out of. I know for me, I'm laying in bed at night and I just grab my phone. We have 3 air conditioners in our house, and I can change any one of them. Otherwise, I got to go to different parts of the house, and I would have to adjust the thermostat. So by me introducing that increase in functionality in my life with technology, I've also now opened the door for additional risk. So your thoughts on that, Matt?
I use my thermostat for the same thing too. Especially, during summer, which as hot as it's been, you wake up at 2:00 in the morning. You're probably still working at 2:00 in the morning, but you wake up at 2:00 in the morning. You don't want to get up, and you just turn that dial. AC kicks on. But yeah, it's which we discussed in the previous segment as well. It's all these things are very, very, very convenient to our lifestyle these days, but you're just opening the door for any other kind of risk. And it's worth it to me. It's definitely convenient. Might make us a little bit lazier than maybe we should be, but the technology is only going to progress further as we go.
That's right. So let's apply that to business. So we're in business, and we would like all of our employees to be able to automatically be able to log in from wherever they are into our ERP.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple different scenarios. Number one, we can buy, have a CapEx, and buy them all devices and issue them all devices, tablets or phones or whatever. Or we could just say, hey, everybody already owns a phone. We can use the bring your own device model, and we can harness that technology. But that's a complex equation, because now we've got everybody accessing a company asset with a privately owned device. So now we have mobile device management in there. We've got that risk. We've got to be able to manage it. So we're asking for a much greater functionality, but we've got to really appreciate the layers of security and control and process that go along with that. And I think mobile device usage in business these days is a great example of where we just very quickly, in a short amount of time, asked for a whole new category of functionality without realizing the cost, unintended consequences, and risk associated with doing that. And I think that that's very important to make sure that we are honoring the layered security protection necessary to go along with that. So getting back to, I'm looking for someone to take care of my IT needs, but I don't know what my IT needs are. So when you get down to operational, that's where mobile falls in. And then security, what security do I need? Well, if I'm using mobile in any way, then mobile device management is key, and addressing the security needs for that is key, just as an example.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, let's move on to our next item in our stack of stuff in our IT news items. So it's been a very busy couple weeks in IT breaches, in cybersecurity breaches, ransomware attacks, and we just want to highlight a couple high-value breaches here and explicate a little bit about what went on. So at the top of the list here is Campbell, Conroy, and O'Neill PC. They are a big law firm that counts dozens of Fortune 500 and Global 500 companies among its clientele. They have disclosed a data breach following a February 2021 ransomware attack, and their clientele list includes high-profile companies from various industry sectors, including automotive, aviation, energy, insurance, pharmaceutical, retail, hospitality, and transportation. At the time, it was unclear if client data had been stolen, but the investigation has since determined that client data was stolen, and these cyber crooks made off with data about clients, including names, dates of birth, driver's license numbers, state identification numbers, financial account information, social security numbers, passport numbers, payment card information, medical information, health insurance information, and biometric data. Usernames and passwords were also snatched, and online account credentials like usernames and passwords. One of the things that the law firm has done for all of the identified individuals is they're providing free access to credit monitoring, fraud consultation, identity theft restoration services, those types of things. And essentially, that's basically like dark web scanning.
Yeah.
And like a dark web scanning service. And it doesn't do anything for you about the information that's already been stolen. What it does tell you is if in the future what information is going to be floating around there. And you know, you can explain to our audience here is that if all of that information I just listed, your driver's license number, your state identification number, your social security number, your passport number, well, when they're passwords and usernames and it's found on the dark web, what do? We go and change that stuff.
Yeah.
But what do you do, Matt, when your social security number is found on the dark web?
That's a good question. I mean, at that point, you're kind of out of luck to some degree. I've never personally been hit by having a social security number breach or anything like that, but I've heard bad things.
Yeah, because now your entire profile is out there. I mean, it's not just that your social security number is floating out there all by itself. It's out there associated with your passport number and your credit card number and your full name and your date of birth and your driver's license number. The things that you can change are you can change your credit card number.
Yeah.
You can change all of your credentials for your online logins and things like that, but you can't change your identity.
Nope.
So, you know, you've got a major identity theft issue. So, you know, going back to that law firm, they've got a major issue. And so anytime from a compliance standpoint, anytime you've got a major breach over a certain threshold, you've got to report it. And you've got on your report card, on your permanent record, all over the internet that, you know, this company, we had this breach. These are, you know, this amount of individuals have been hacked. This data has been breached. This is the type of data. and that's on your record forever. That's like having a bankruptcy on your record. The problem is it doesn't really expire after 7 years or go away after 7 years. It's always on there. This is not something that any company in the world wants. And we're reading this right off of ID Agent's website, and they've got an individual risk score associated and a risk to business score associated. And they're giving an extreme score, which is the maximum of a 1.2, and they're giving a severe score, which is right next to the extreme score for the individual risk. And this is a ransomware exploit.
There's actually something interesting about what you said at the beginning. Is not only is this ransomware, it's also a data breach as well. So I'd be interested to know is this a situation where they paid for the ransomware to get their data unencrypted, and then they also got double dipped with a data breach?
That's a great point. Yeah. It used to be that, originally people were looking to get their data back.
Yeah.
You go in, you find all of your files are encrypted, and you probably had an issue with your backup. You weren't able to get it, or you weren't able to get it timely. So you paid for the encryption key to get your stuff back. And nobody was really worried beyond that. Now there's the issue with, you're a law firm, and you're really concerned about your client's data, and it's more than getting it back. You not only want it back, you want to make sure it doesn't get out. So, that's a great point. Did they pay the ransom to just get it back so they have access to it? Or did they pay the ransom to get it back and make sure that it wasn't dumped on the dark web? And if they did pay the ransom, clearly they didn't get what they paid for. If they didn't pay the ransom and they said, hey, we've already got backups, go pound sand, then they ended up doing their clients a serious disservice. So, that's a great angle. That's a great point, a great observation here. And you know what, this next example, it's the exact same issue. And, one of the things that ID Agent points out is that this type of data for major companies and powerful business executives is cyber criminal gold and quickly saleable in the busy dark web data markets.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to wonder, if you're the bad guys, is this data more valuable for us to hold for ransom from the company itself? Or is it easier for us to just do the data breach and take it and sell it on the dark web market? Or is it easier for us to, or is it better for us to do the double dipping, like you said, take the ransom and get them their data back and then go sell it on the dark web? So like we've been saying over the past several weeks, the ransomware industry is rapidly changing. We've talked about ransomware as a service, and their delivery model has changed, and also the monetization of how they're making money is changing too. And that's why we've got to be multiple steps ahead of them in the defense department.
Yeah, at the end of the day, even with all these groups that are doing it, they stand by the fact that they're like, hey, we have to be legible as far as when we say if you pay the ransom, we'll give you the key to decrypt it, and they've been good about that. But there's nothing in there that says they can't take what data they got out of that and then they're going to do something else with it. So,
boy, you're exactly right. And we've got another example here: Forefront Dermatology, a Wisconsin-based dermatology practice with affiliated offices in 21 states plus Washington, D.C., just had to notify 2.4 million patients, employees, and clinicians of a ransomware incident it recently experienced. Cuba ransomware is believed to be the culprit, and the incident is the third largest healthcare breach of 2021 so far. Experts who spotted the data dump on the darknet site said that it was approximately 47 megabytes, including more than 130 files with information on the entity's system and network, with security and backup details and all their logins for vendor sites. And so you could just imagine how that could proliferate even farther.
Oh, yeah.
So in terms of the risk to the individual, the company has announced that potentially compromised patient, clinician, and employee information includes name, address, date of birth, patient account number, health insurance plan member ID number, medical record number, dates of service, provider names, and or medical and clinical treatment information. Ugh. So they've got the HIPAA violation, they've got compliance violations, they could be possibly into it for fines. It's a mess. It's just a real mess. And again, this is just not a place that you want to be. And so, you know what? We're out of time for this segment. We're going to come back on our third segment and wrap this up. But for now, if you'd like to contact us with any inquiries on needs or information about the show, you can contact us at 888-804-1MSP. Email us at ithour@computeroptions.net or follow us on Discord.
Contacts, calls, chat, and meetings with screen share, all accessible in one place. Now it's easy to work anywhere on any device with no friction. Brilliant! The smoothest communication and epic collaboration in one simple, unified tool. Save time, reduce costs, toss the fragmented tools, grow faster, get happier. Work instantly improves when communication and collaboration happens in one tool. Make calls, read voicemail, chat, have video meetings, and more, all on your browser. And all of this is instantly available with zero setup or configuration. It's business done better and the productivity solution you need. Talk to us today to learn what our proven UC solutions can offer your business. If you want peace of mind, call Telecommunication Solutions from California Computer Options at 800-804-1MSP.
Attention residents of the Inland Empire. If you or someone you know is shopping for a mortgage, turn to one of the fastest growing mortgage lenders in the Inland Empire, Arrowhead Capital Mortgage. We offer a variety of loan products and options to help you and your family get into the home of your dreams, and we make sure the process is easy. Don't miss out on these historically low interest rates. Call now, 909-335-0430, or go online to www.ac.mortgage. That's 909-335-0430 or www.ac.mortgage. NMLS ID 267884, Equal Housing Lender. Call for additional cost information. Other restrictions may apply.
Hi, are you ready to join a well-established managed IT service company? California Computer Options in Redland, California is currently seeking full-time remote work for Level 1 technical consultants and small to medium-sized business network operations center engineer, Windows Systems Administrator. Please contact us at California Computer Options 909-793-6338, 909-793-6338.
And welcome back to our final segment with Brad and Matt on IT Hour. And so, Matt, we were just talking about some case studies here for the recent ransomware attacks on Forefront Dermatology and Campbell, Conroy, and O'Neill. And these are some tragic cases where, as you pointed out in the last segment, that not only were they hit with the ransomware posture, but then they also got the data sold out during the breach, and they got screwed with all that PII going out to the dark web. So again, we're seeing a constant evolution of the ransomware industry and how both Americans and Europeans and folks all over the world, we saw it in Latin America last week, of getting hit. And so we're going to continue to talk about what the defense posture looks like to face this. So reporting of data breaches is a stain on your report card that lasts forever. It's like a permanent bankruptcy. It's not something that you want. It's memorialized on the web, and recovering your business credibility can be very tough and last a long time. These companies clearly had a lack of comprehensive layered approach. So enough of beating that dead horse. Let's move on to the next item in our big stack of stuff here. We've got an interesting item here. Again, it's closely related with cybersecurity, and it's brand impersonation phishing. I want to talk about this for a minute. One of the most effective and devastating ways that cyber criminals land their hooks on unsuspecting employees is through brand impersonation. And you've seen this, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
It's become easy for them to create excellent-looking branded messages that seem genuine, making email spoofing a critical component of brand impersonation, an especially tricky foe. Businesses are also dealing with an increasing amount of specialty vendors for third-party services, as well as a growing number of companies in many supply chain, and the top form of B2B communications remains email. I mean, we see this. I mean, businesses are held together with email. It's a top form of communication. Yes, we have a lot of informal communication and teamwork that goes along with chat platforms, but the real formal communication, the real things that hold stuff together is email. And that leaves scores of opportunities every week for cyber criminals to slip a few lures into the sea of branded email that businesses receive.
Yeah.
And so, we have seen everywhere from wire fraud to, vendors getting hacked in communication, going back and forth from payment methods and everything from, and we see these types of attempts all the time. And I think that this really underscores the need for a premium mail filter with phishing protection, spear phishing protection. This really highlights the layer of mail security. And I know you have had extensive experience with this layer and this type of item.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, having those layers of security is huge, especially for domain spoofing, things like that. All that stuff gets picked up. And especially in spear phishing, the AI technology is huge because there's nothing inherently wrong with the email. So you always need to have that extra layer of security to be able to deal with that. I mean, some things, though, even come down to it's just on the user end. Your user is your other last layer of security, I guess would be the better way to look at it. Because, I mean, sometimes there's nothing wrong with the email. There's nothing that's going to get flagged. Or, you're getting a branded email from Computy Options instead of Computer Options. And that's a valid domain that somebody set up to use to spoof. And, that kind of stuff does get bypassed. Obviously, you want all those layers, including the human element in conjunction, to make sure that you're not getting hit with those kind of things. And the number one rule, I think we've always said this on the show when we've talked about this before, is if you get anything about a bank wire or gift cards, make sure you pick up a phone and talk to whoever you think sent it. Never just go blindly and do that kind of stuff.
That's right. I mean, that's an excellent point. We have that outlined right in our best practices policy, that all financial communication needs to have a second verification. And that really applies. That's multi-factor authentication at its most basic level.
It is.
And that means any medium. I mean, if you get a wire request via fax, you need to make a phone call. If you get if you get it via phone call, you need to have it authenticated in a different medium as well. But going back to your other point, is that if you get internal, if you work for Acme Company and you're an internal employee and you get a memo that's branded Acme Company and you don't check the domain name and the actual sender, you could very easily be fooled.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of the times, too, what you'll get is whether it's a similar domain name with like a letter's different, or they use a different domain name. Even what some people will do is, okay, let me go to the website. Well, they have a redirect on DNS for that website to go to the main website. And sometimes people are like, looks good. And they don't even think about that too. So you always got to double check.
So I think what I'm hearing you saying is not only do you need to have premium mail security in place with phishing protection, you also, security awareness training is incredibly important too.
Essential.
Because regardless of all of the filtering systems in place, spoofing can use really legitimate methods to get something through.
Yep.
And we really need to have employees trained to know what to look for in those small probability instances. And, when we think of network security all the way down the line, we've got all of these systems and security layers and everything in place. The firewall's watertight, but we've got a user standing here at the gates, allowing, saying who can come in and who can't. And if someone dressed up in a phony wig and a phony mustache gets past the gatekeeper, meanwhile, we've got all these tall walls and archers and cannons and everything, but the guy at the gate just opened the gate and said, come on in, and he didn't recognize the phony mustache and the phony wig, then there goes all of your defenses right there.
Exactly.
And that's where user security awareness or gatekeeper training, or again, with the stupid analogies. Hopefully everybody gets the points. I guess I'm hoping everybody will go to sleep going, boy, that was really dumb. And it made me remember it. So one more element to this is mail phishing testing. This is a responsibility of the managed service provider or the internal IT team. Is part of security awareness training is sending out testing and said, okay, we've got the mail security in place. We've done the security awareness training. Now let's send out some dummy phishing emails and see how well everybody did in the security awareness training and see how effective the training was.
Yep.
And we do that through some of our tools as well. Anything to add to that, Matt?
Not a whole lot that we haven't already touched on. I mean, like we said, employee education is just such a big factor that I think often gets overlooked, especially if you don't have an MSP or a third party doing those kind of testing, like email phishing, pen testing, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we haven't probably stressed it enough, but one of the big elements is definitely get that employee education out there.
Agreed. And, more email gives cyber criminals more opportunity. And recently, a 660% increase in the volume of phishing email means that our staffers are seeing more suspicious messages that is disaster waiting to happen. And ID Agent has also made that statistic available for us as fodder for our radio show here. But also, it just shows why this is increasingly more important. And as a result of these phishing exploitations, the number one cause of disaster never changes. It's human error.
Yep.
Whenever a human being comes into contact with a cybersecurity risk, like a suspicious email, there's a chance that they will make a mistake that results in a cybersecurity incident. And according to ID Agent, unfortunately, more than 40% of office workers in a recent survey admitted that they regularly open suspicious messages to avoid missing something important. And that's only frustrating for us if 40% of office workers surveyed admitted to doing it after we've already told them not to.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part. And, because we regularly work with clients and we do through the training and we give them best practices. We disseminate that material quite a bit. So I hope that was not 40% of office workers surveyed that had already gone through the training.
Yeah.
So brand impersonation is a very convincing way to cause a worker to make a non-malicious error. An estimated 45% of companies are failing at security awareness training, leaving them open to threats. And some of the biggest brands that employees encounter in the day-to-day of their jobs are constant brand impersonation and spoofing targets. And it doesn't take much effort for a cyber criminal to clone an email from a legitimate sender and alter the details enough to garner an unsuspecting click, exactly like, you just talked about. Getting that information from the website. I mean, we all know everyone's marketing and branding, and that can be very easily duplicated. I know that in my tenure, we have all seen Microsoft's emails brand impersonated and spoofed. I mean, those are done all over the place. And Microsoft is probably, I don't have the statistic in front of me, but I would say Microsoft is probably the number one target as far as rebranding and spoofing and people trying to monetize. I know that we've had reports for years of folks getting phone calls from Microsoft saying that they're calling because you've got a vulnerability and it's Microsoft tech support on the line. They just want to get a hold of your computer and log in, and they're going to charge you a couple $100, and really obviously they are a bad actor.
Yeah, and that gets out of hand real quick. It's actually funny you brought that up. I was actually reading an article about that earlier today, which interesting statistics to see that I think they said from 2018 to 2021, a survey had shown they had reduced the people who had fallen for that by like almost like 60%.
Wow.
Because it's so commonly known, and people know about it, they experience it, and so on and so forth. You always hear the story about your grandmother getting stuck on the phone with IT and hang up the phone, grandma. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's so publicly known. We need to have that kind of thing apply to things like email phishing and all that kind of stuff too, which is, again, harping on the education thing. That's just what that leads to. But yeah, a lot of people, even today, I think I read something that was like 1 in 10 people still fall for the phone calls.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, you just have to know, obviously Microsoft's not making those calls.
Yeah.
The IRS isn't calling you. There's still a lot of those scams that have legs. And those are the easy ones. That's the low hanging fruit. We're talking about a lot of the studies that we're showing. The case studies are very, very sophisticated, multi-threaded threats.
Yeah.
And so let's segue on to since we're running out of time, let's segue on to our last item of the day here. This is not necessarily cybersecurity related, but an account management item. And, these are the types of things that we have to deal with in account management. It's ultimately under the purview of IT. This is lawsuits related to physician websites that have videos that don't provide closed captioning. And so this is just one of those compliance items that I just wanted to highlight here, that something that we just have to take responsibility for and assist our clients with. And so it's important in all of our healthcare space that we help our clients make sure that, hey, if you have videos posted on your website, it's got to include closed captioning. And so it's just one of those things that we don't think about. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that next week. Unfortunately, we've just run out of time because we've had so much fun today. And thank you so much, Matt, for all of your great contribution to the news items. You know what? If you like what you heard today, if you're concerned about security, you're concerned about your own IT responsibility, please give us a call here at 888-804-1MSP. You can email us at ithour@computeroptions.net or follow us on Discord. Here's wishing you best practices for a better IT experience.
This has been IT Hour on KMET 1490 AM. Join us each week Wednesdays at 4 p.m. You can email us at ithour@computeroptions.net or join us on Discord by going to kmet1490am.com, head over to the IT Hour show, and click on the Discord link. Thank you for listening, and here's wishing you best practices for a better IT experience.